Hey, hi, welcome back to the Community Podcast. I'm your host, Chase Johnston Lynch, here in Big Condo Online. Please like and subscribe, ring the bell, and remember, here in the Community Podcast, we endeavor to bring you guests that I'm interested in hearing from, that I think you'll be interested in hearing about as well, because of what the work that they do in the community. So today, I'm joined by a gentleman named Matty Caine from the First Person Project. How you doing, Matty?
How you doing? Okay.
Yeah, so, we had a little joke there about Michael Caine, but that's all good. I am Michael Caine and everything, who's not Michael Caine because he's Michael Micklewhite and stuff. But either way, Matty is, he started out as kind of like a Lone Ranger, but his company has been expanding for the past 2 years. I think he started in around 2019, didn't it?
Yeah, 2019, October.
Yeah, and but basically you have a mental health social enterprise,
right? Yeah,
and basically, I guess you could tell us, but I mean, you started out as a mental health nurse and decided that maybe I want to do something more in the community, didn't you?
Yeah. So I'm a mental health nurse. I have been for over 10 years, about 12 years, but I've worked in mental health for 16.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of the time was spent in the NHS. I was in various leadership positions up and down the country, managing services and, like I say, leading services. But yeah, I had a professional kind of epiphany at that point and realised that we could do some good stuff in the community. I also had a personal issue happen, whereby I experienced the loss of my mum in 2018.
Yeah, just bring it up.
Yeah, cool.
Tilt it up.
I'll tilt it.
Yeah.
There you go. Same.
Yeah, we
guys,
go.
the pros, you guys,
now
the
we
pros.
can hear you.
There you go. Yeah. So basically, them two worlds kind of came together and resulted in a First Person Project.
So, everybody has some kind of experience with mental health, don't they? Basically, because me, myself, and my son, raising him, it's like I've learned a lot about what they call the autistic spectrum, and in learning about that, because obviously being of a person of a certain age, autism as well as the word mental health was kind of like, not very good words, like if you say somebody, hey, you got a mental health problem, not like you would, but if you, it would be like bad. But now it's in consideration that there's so many different variables, aren't there?
Yeah, it's more accepted, which is great. I think you mentioned age. I think also it depends on where you're from as well. I mean, I think I'm originally just from 5 minutes away. I'm from Everton, Everton Road. And there's a lot of people there who I knew back then, who I still know now, who have got what professionals might describe as mental health problems, but haven't got a label. But that doesn't mean that they aren't, amazing people with amazing gifts and amazing things to offer the world. It's just they need the chance and the space to do that, and that's hopefully what we can do.
Well, communication is an important part of it, isn't
Absolutely.
it? I mean, like in that aspect, it's like one of the things several things that your service is there for is like firstly being within the community, but it's providing education and support, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in that aspect, is you are like out to create certain initiatives, and several. So, because I think two of them is consultancy and one-to-one coaching. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned before, I mean, I'm unfortunate that the career I've had before First Person Project was as a nurse in the NHS. So that lends itself really well. It's really transferable now, and there's a lot of organisations and a lot of communities really that can benefit from them skills. So the consultancy arm comes from that. I've also got a business. Well, I'm coming to the end of a business master's degree, so I've got a bit of a business background as well, as is one of the other directors in the business. So we're able to lend them skills to people. In terms of the support, we don't have any waiting lists. We often will give it away on a funded basis to people. We will do one-to-one coaching with them. It isn't therapy or counselling in a traditional sense, because we're not working with people who it's not necessarily about a mental health problem. It's more about helping them to understand a bit more about what their experience is, and then helping them to think of ways of managing things and to become more resilient. I've got a session this afternoon, actually, later today. I look forward to it every week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the thing about it is I think the main thing about it is that you're able to have a project that is there for people to ascertain and support. Like you said that you also provide a drop-in. Is that like once a week and everything like that?
Yeah, on a Monday evening, city centre location in the Quaker Meeting House behind Primark. It's free to access. Just turn up 6 till 9 every week.
Yeah. Now, I mean, because your organization is still in the young age and stuff like that, when you started, 2019, everything seemed to be, hey, hunky dory. And then we all been hit by the pandemic and stuff. So I believe that's when you say you started to get busy then.
Yeah, I think prior to the pandemic, there was a certain audience, a certain population like myself, like different professionals who could maybe see the need. But I think the general public didn't really see that there was as big a mental health need as there is now. I don't think the pandemic has necessarily created a new wave of people with mental health problems. I think it's just...
Well, it gave them more time on their hands.
Yeah, it shone a light on it.
Yeah.
And there's an argument that mental health was a pandemic, or a pandemic stage before even we knew what, or pandemic became a daily part of what we talk about.
Well, it's good that you say shine a light on it, because it's kind of like, it's like something that we're all dealing with.
Yeah.
Right. But then when we had that time of crisis on our hands, it's like it started to give people a way of, maybe. And you just happen to be there, isn't it?
That's it. And I think it's the things that we probably took for granted. Things like connection and isolation, and these things that we probably didn't even realise can affect your mental health as much as they do. And of course, everybody was in the same boat from kind of March 2020 onwards. Fortunately for myself, because I'm a nurse by background, them skills are still in demand. So I've been able to still pay the bills whilst, with the support of an amazing voluntary team, be able to take what we do. And I even expanded to the point where we are now. Like I say, there's 10 of us, all doing very specific things at specific times. We aren't all full-time or nothing like that. It's just we can be flexible to the needs of the community, and we even try that. That's what we try and do. If there's a particular conversation or particular need about something that somebody comes to us with, we will try and create an initiative around that, so that it's basically the community stealing what we do. Essentially, that's where the drop-in idea came from. It wasn't something that was on the cards for us necessarily. It was feedback that we'd got from some of the courses that we ran that would be useful. So we made it happen.
But it also made you like be more proactive than reactive, as you say.
Yeah, it's all about being proactive. So I think there's a time and a place for a service to ask, have you got a particular diagnosis? Do you need a particular type of therapy or treatment? I think there's definitely a time and a place. But I think for a community-based service, I think what we need to do is be more proactive, and what I describe as upstream, where we're fending the problems off, we're catching them early, and we're stopping it from developing into an illness or a diagnosis or something that can be diagnosed. And it's not a case of treatment, really, what we're providing. We believe that everything that sits within a community, again, it's this idea of just illuminating it and shining a light on it. Communities are full of gifts and assets and all of these wonderful things that maybe we overlook.
But also too, it's like, it's causing people to talk about it, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, like the main thing about it is like we're of an older generation, I mean, we didn't talk about, our mental health. We didn't talk about our depression. We didn't talk about various different things. But then when you provide a service where it's like, hey, listen, we're here to listen. We're here to communicate, as well as to educate. It makes it easier for people to build that resilience, which is part of one of your modules that you're dealing with, because as you just said, there are different courses that you provide, different modules. Some are for free, or some obviously, like if you're an organization, you can pay for it and everything else like that. But you're also starting this now, as we speak, isn't it? I mean, like I believe you even have a course starting this week on resilience and stuff. But I mean, tell me about that, because I mean, these also happen like every Saturday. It's like kind of thing. So
So we, with the help of a couple of psychology graduates, what we decided to do, gave them a chance to get some experience first, There's three people actually. The three individuals, the young people, really smart and intelligent people, but actually from the same types of neighbourhoods that maybe we are. And I think that it's that personal insight and the professional knowledge that they have, the academic knowledge that's come together to make this situation where if they're given a chance, they can have a real impact at such a young age. They're in the early 20s. But together, I kind of supervised the project, and we designed this 8-module course called Resilient Minds, which we've offered over Zoom during the pandemic, but we're offering now face-to-face and in person down in Baltic Creative. It starts... Well, the next phase of it starts tomorrow. It's 10:15 till 12:15. It's a combination really of kind of fundamental basics, really, mental health education, but also some support and skill building. I deliver it with the volunteers. I think the thing as well is most of the people who work within First Person Project, we've all got broken wings in some way. All of us have experienced poor mental health. Like I say, I head up the company, and I did, and I still do, and I talk about it unashamedly, really. And then I think the added bonus is there's people within the organisation who have your kind of traditional background. We have a professional background as well, so there's no waiting lists. There's no the community facing stuff. There's actually no cost. I mean, that Resilient Minds course doesn't cost anything. You can sign up via Eventbrite. The drop in, there's no cost. Like you mentioned, though, we do run some corporate training, which is slightly different. It's accredited training that we offer. Yeah, it's actually mental health first aid training that we offer to organisations. But even on that, we want to make sure accessibility is that's key for us. So we offer it at a really, really reduced price in comparison to the rest of the market, really. Yeah. And in terms of the quality and the value that an organisation will be getting, you're getting an experienced professional with, like I say, 16 years experience, with personal experience, also delivering an accredited course to your workforce at a time when it's more than needed.
What also is interesting is that, like, how different and yet the same people are. Mm-hmm. Like what you were talking about, like your volunteers and your graduate students and stuff like that. You were also mentioning, like, you had like a girl who has a music business degree and stuff like that. And in that aspect of it is that everybody has something to give and offer, in that. So it's not like you have to come in as a trained psychologist or, and everything else like that. Again, communication is the key when you're sharing knowledge, isn't it? Now also what I thought was really interesting is that in January, you're adding a men's mental health group. Yeah.
So again, that was one of these kind of adaptable kind of things where somebody suggested it, and we thought, well, we looked inwards and we thought, do we have the skills and knowledge within the organisation to be able to provide something? And the answer was yes. So again, it's a co-run thing. Myself personally, because of my personal background more than my professional background, and a guy who, again, he's a student, a degree student. He's studying health and health and wellbeing, something like that, but it's health related. And he's a smart guy, and he's fundamentally and importantly, he's also had a personal background of mental ill health. So together, it's Matty and Mix men's club. Essentially, it's going to be called, free to access, and we hope it'll be somewhere in or around the city centre.
I mean, this is happening all over the place now. Because I've heard of one in Litherland, and there's also one in like Exchange Flags. So it's kind of like it's like now it's being recognized that men need to like kind of like gather and discuss mental health. Because it's like we're too busy, growing up, be strong, hide yourself, gird yourself and everything. And sometimes vulnerability is all we really need. Yeah. And again, that's actually being listened to and stuff like that. So when I asked you about like, like one of your main goals, you told me that like one of your main goals is to improve mental health in the communities and stuff like that, because you feel that we're all full of assets and everything. Can you tell me how you're working towards this goal?
Yeah. So what I meant by that really is, I think so often services require you to have an illness or something to access them. So if you think about the NHS, for example, and without being critical, if you think about it, you need to be ill before you can access the NHS, which doesn't make sense. Yeah. For National Health Service, surely it should be the National Illness Service. That's more accurate, I think. But I mean, I'm not, like I say, I'm not being critical.
No. But I mean, I like it.
History. Yeah, I've got a long history in the NHS, and I respect what it is, and I like to think I'm a socialist, and I believe in the model. But I think we have to be honest about these things, and if we can improve, we should try to. And there's things that I don't actually think are the NHS's to deal with. I think there's certain things within communities that maybe, you mentioned, we all have a certain age, and I think I can remember being younger, just on an estate up there, and there was hardly any kind of professional institutions that came into the estate. It was the estate that managed what went on. So if there was a summer school or a play scheme or something like that, it was the estate that managed that. It wasn't the local council. If there was a person who was isolated or lonely, it wasn't the social services that managed that, or the NHS. It was people would knock on the door and give them food, and just neighbourly things to do. I think that's disappeared a bit.
It's kind of like when they have like pastoral teachers in schools. Yeah, and stuff like that. But then that's in school. So what happens when you're an adult?
Well, exactly. And I think communities, if you look, I mean, we've all come from a community. We all live within communities. But I always ask the question of people, how many of your neighbours do you know now? Nobody leaves the front gate anymore, bro. Exactly. Exactly. This is it. But I think if we start turning our focus inwards to ourselves and to the communities that we live in, we'll see that there's so much more that we have, that we'll stop looking for others outside of the community to provide it. And over time, what can happen is the community can become more empowered and to do many things themselves, and actually much better than some of these institutions can do.
What's interesting about that is that, like, closest, of course. Mm-hmm. People living in closest is like, for me, it's like not Slandon. Yeah. But like people living close, you still don't know your neighbors as much as you used to, because you're too afraid to let your kid leave the front gate. But then like my ex had a neighbor who, like I would see, on occasion all the time, old man living on his own across the street, from the house. And then when he had just recently passed, I was shocked to see, and it was nice to see, like all the neighbors came out into the street to kind of like gather, like in, memory of this man. But then it went from day to night, and it's just like the first time, like you're seeing people out on the street to get in the close. I'm talking about, and everything, and obviously, you don't know this gentleman's story, being on his own or whatever and stuff like that, but.
Well, that, I mean, and I think it's great when you see that, and I've been part of that and witnessed it myself. But can you imagine if some of them people had have paid the attention to the old man before he died?
This is what I'm trying to say.
This is it, exactly. And I think once upon a time people used to do that, and there's lots of reasons why it's changed. I just think sometimes we're looking in communities, we're looking outwards for people to fix what's going on. Mm-hmm. But in fact, if we took the ownership of some things ourselves, we would. I mean, we mentioned about Inclusive Hub and the work they're doing. It's phenomenal. I've worked in health services for all of my adult life, and I've never seen a health service do work as effective as that.
Yeah,
and that's two local residents doing something.
Well, that's a shout out to the Inclusive Hub, who've been on the show and everything else like that. The work that they're doing up here, in the Kirkdale area and stuff like that. And I mean, now you were saying that your project is not like fully funded and stuff like that. And but it's an important project. That people should know that exists and is out there and everything. I on one hand, as I was saying, my question was, what does first person need? But maybe I should say is, how can people help and support first person project?
Okay. So as a social enterprise, I care really about trying to keep a balance between getting grant funding and donations, but also generating revenue. I think it's important that we generate revenue, because if we're working with vulnerable people, then we have to make sure that what we're doing is sustainable. And if every time we need money we're asking people for it, then that's not sustainable. So I'm keen for a balance, and luckily to this date we do have a balance. So the first way really is simple. It's share what we do. It's promote what we do. attend what we do, if you can come along and be a part of the community and contribute in that way. But then the other way is, if you run a business, if you work within an organisation and you feel that you need specialist training and consultancy from people who care, then come to us. We can do it at a really, really reduced price, but the quality is not affected. I'd argue the quality is better. So there's that as well. And then any initiatives that we run, like I say, share, invite, spread the word. It's as simple as that, like a community would.
No, exactly. And I mean, obviously, like you said, your classes are starting, now, or they're running now, probably by the time this airs. But, generally like on a Saturday. But I mean, like, how can people find you on social media? It'd probably be a good thing if they did want to take a course. Okay.
So we're on all the major ones, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
As what? I love it how people just say we're on all the platforms, and you're thinking that I'm going to find you. Yeah,
that's true. That's why you're a professional. See?
Well, I'm just saying.
As first person project.
Yeah.
And to book the course on a Saturday, it's Eventbrite. We call it a course, we call it a program, but realistically, you can come if you missed the next day. You can and you can't make one. You can just turn up the next week. Well, okay, you can't turn up. You sign up on Eventbrite and then you can turn up. But in terms of the drop-ins, in terms of anything else, all instructions of how to access it will be via social media. So please follow us on all the major platforms. First Person Project CIC. Thank you.
There we go. But I mean, like, but then also too is that this is a Liverpool-based organization and everything else like that. But like, as far as your drop-in services as well, is like you guys like in the Baltic Triangle, aren't you?
Yeah. So we run the drop-in from just behind Primark, so it's still city centre, but we don't run it from the Baltic.
Primark is not Baltic,
No. That's definitely not where we're based. Is where we're running the course on a Saturday morning. We're running it from where we live in the Baltic. But the drop-in itself isn't in there. The drop-in is still in town, but it's in the.
Is that the Quaker House?
Yeah, the Quaker House on a Monday. Yeah.
How come I know and you don't know? That's all right.
This is it. It's exactly. Maybe you go
Liverpool small, bro.
When you're from New York, it is.
Yeah. All right. But either way you look at it is, I mean, no, I think that it definitely sounds like a good project to be a part of. Thank and you. Everything like that. The First Person Project. It's a mental health social enterprise. Run by Matty Caine, and he's stopped being a Lone Ranger. You got partners. Growing up to 10 people strong, as you said. Volunteers as well. But either way is that mental health is not a dirty word. Everybody's suffering from some form of depression or when you have the autistic spectrum, there's so many different values. It doesn't have to be the extreme form of mental health. I think you were saying something about that before, about ill health or something like that. Yeah. It doesn't have to be so extreme.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. I think the way we try and, I think most people will look at mental health and mental illness as in you kind of have a mental illness or you don't. Yeah. But we don't look at it that way. We look at it in terms of a continuum, like a,
I love that word, the continuum. Yeah. I was waiting for it.
I mean, one end you've got mental health and the other end you've got mental ill health. And essentially all of us, we're all vulnerable. We're all able to move up and down that continuum at any point. The key bit is everything that we do, there's no kind of exclusive criteria that you need to have a mental health problem or a diagnosis or nothing like that. The only time that will change is if there's a specific program that we've been funded to do that's kind of made explicit by the funder, and we have to do that. But the things that we've got running now, you don't. You can, and if you've got any kind of queries about it, reach out to us, and we'll involve you in something.
And it's intergenerational as well.
Absolutely,
so,
anyone can
everything. So you deal with young people as well as older people and everything else like that. So once again, the First Person Project. If you think you could use some support, you probably can. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're friendly. We're friendly, qualified. We've been there, and some of us are still there. So
some of us are still there. You're not going away, and everything like that. So I would just like to thank you for joining me here and telling us about the First Person Project, Matty, and everything. So once again, this is Matty Caine from the First Person Project. They could be found on all social medias. I don't know where, and so add the first person project and everything, but and also please, like as you're liking and subscribing on this, is like you can also make comments down below, because sometimes you might just want to be able to reach out to Matty, and then this might be your way of doing it, and stuff like that as another resource. So this is Chase Johnson Lynch. You've been listening to the Community Podcast here on Big Condo Online. And you know what? We're out of here.
Thank you.